Welcome to the Echo Lab, the place where music's best-kept secrets come to light. In every episode, we uncover the overlooked legends, the underground classics, and the hidden influences that shape the soundtrack of generations. From cult bands and iconic session players to the untold stories behind timeless tracks. If you're a fan of deep cuts and deep dives, you're in the right place. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a beat. Let's get into the story behind the sound. Jerry Reed, the guitar man of country soul. You know, some guitarists sneak up on you. Others walk in a room, plug in, and slap your ears wide awake. Jerry Reed? He lit the room on fire and laughed while doing it. Born Jerry Reed Hubbard on March 20th, 1937, in Atlanta, Georgia, he was the kind of kid who came into the world already humming a tune. His parents, Robert and Cynthia, were working-class folks. Robert spent long days at a cotton mill. Cynthia sewed clothes and sang gospel hymns in the kitchen, humming while folding laundry. They didn't have much. Their little shotgun house on the west side of Atlanta smelled like coal smoke and cornbread, but it pulsed with rhythm and resilience. By the time Jerry was 7, he'd found music, or maybe it found him. He started plucking a banjo, mimicking what he heard on the radio. Hank Williams, Roy Acuff, and those late-night country barn dance shows. "I'd play till my fingers hurt," he once told Rolling Stone. There wasn't a music teacher in sight, just Jerry, his ears, and that fire in his chest. School didn't hold his attention. He was scrawny, with a grin that got him out of trouble almost as often as it got him into it. Bullies came for his size. He fought back with sharp wit and wisecracks. "They called me Runt," he said, "so I crack a joke and make 'em laugh instead of swing." That became a pattern in his life, disarming the world with charm and mischief. But when the laughter faded, he always turned back to music. At 12, he got his first pawnshop guitar. Cheap, battered, but magic in his hands. He wore the frets down, mimicking Merle Travis's finger-picking. Didn't even know it had a name at the time. He just called it making his guitar talk. By 14, he was sneaking into Atlanta juke joints, barely tall enough to see over the mic stand, his voice still cracking, but man, those fingers, they could already fly. By 16, he dropped out of high school. "I wanted the stage," he later said, "not a desk." That's how clear it was for him. No plan B, just a battered guitar, and a dream louder than any teacher's warning. He worked the honky-tonk circuit, gritty clubs filled with cigarette smoke and sticky beer floors. He played Hank Snow covers with a twist, slipping in funky little syncopations that made people look up from their drinks. That's where people first heard that sound. Reed's signature, chicken pickin', snappy, percussive, playful. "I made my guitar talk like a man," he said, and he meant it. No one else played quite like him. In 1954, a local music publisher named Bill Lowry heard him play at a dive bar and signed into Capitol Records. Jerry was 17. His first single, "If the Good Lord's Willing," came out in 1955. It didn't chart, but you could hear something in it, raw urgency, like a fire barely contained. The label didn't know what to do with him. Too country for pop. Too funky for country. Too wild, period. "I didn't fit their mold," Jerry said years later. "So I broke it." That defiant streak stuck with him. Reed didn't want to be Nashville polished or radio perfect. He wanted grit, groove, personality. And even when the world said no, he just grinned and kept picking. In 1956, with bills piling up and no hits in sight, he joined the Army, Fort McPherson, Georgia. Even in uniform, he didn't stop. He'd play for fellow soldiers, mixing rhythm and blues into his country licks. "The black GIs taught me soul," he told a guitar player. You could hear it, the swampy undercurrent in his picking, the backbeat tucked between his thumb and forefinger. Discharged in 1958, he came home to Atlanta and married Priscilla "Prissy" Mitchell, a fellow singer. They were barely scraping by. A tiny apartment, rent overdue. Jerry pumped gas by day, played clubs by night. "I'd get home at 2 a.m. and be back up slinging gas by 6, he told the Tennessean. Those were the lean years. But every time he stepped on stage, his fingers told a different story, one of ambition and sheer electricity. By 1960, Reed decided it was time to take the leap. He moved to Nashville. No connections. No plan. Just a guitar. He slept in his car. Showed up at label offices unannounced. Nashville wasn't ready for my sound, he later joked. But he wasn't entirely kidding. The town wanted clean-cut crooners. Jerry showed up in loud shirts and cowboy boots, grinning like he just rolled in from a bar fight, and won with a punchline. But slowly, things started clicking. His break came in 1961, not as a performer, but as a songwriter. Brenda Lee, the pint-sized powerhouse with a voice 10 times her size, recorded Reed's song That's All You Gotta Do. It hit number 6 on the pop charts. Just like that, Reed had his foot in the door. I wrote it in 10 minutes, he said later, laughing, and it paid the rent for 2 years. With his name now on the radar, Jerry started picking up session work. He played behind Bobby Bare, played on Chet Atkins records. I'd make the strings dance, he said, and Chet noticed. He liked what he heard, liked the swagger, the soul. In 1964, Reed released his own album, The Unbelievable Guitar and Voice of Jerry Reed. The title said it all. The sales didn't, at least not yet. The album barely moved units, but it planted a seed. One track on that album would come back to change everything. That track, Guitar Man. By 1967, Jerry Reed was still flying under the radar, but not for long. That year, Elvis Presley heard Guitar Man. He loved it. The swagger, the groove, the way it straddled country, rock, and something swampy and indefinable. Elvis wanted to cut it, but he couldn't get the same sound. No one could replicate Reed's guitar part. So Elvis made a call. Man, if you want it to sound right, Jerry later recalled him saying, you got to get the guy who played it. Next thing Jerry knew, he was in the studio with the king himself, laying down that unmistakable chicken-picking groove. The song hit number 43. Not a smash, but it was a moment that told the world. Jerry Reed could flat out play. Around that same time, he recorded Tupelo, Mississippi Flash, a tongue-in-cheek nod to Elvis. It hit number 15 on the country charts. I wrote it Logan in my truck, he said. That was Jerry. Funny, loose, a little sideways, but always sharp. His sound kept evolving. In 1968, Alabama Wild Man introduced a wider audience to Jerry's full persona. Part guitar hero, part country trickster, part Southern philosopher. His playing was fire, snappy Travis-style finger-picking with an extra twist of funk. You could hear Merle Travis in his thumb, but the rest? That was all Reed. I played like I was on fire, he told Guitar Player. And Liv? He was on fire. His shows at Printer's Alley in Nashville were electric, sweat-soaked, fast-talking, finger-flying spectacles. He cracked jokes between licks, grinning like he was pulling off a magic trick, because he dressed the part too. Loud shirts, cowboy boots, a cocky slouch. But it wasn't all bravado. There was doubt under the grin. I'd wonder if I was good enough, he admitted to Rolling Stone. It's hard to believe when you hear those records, but maybe that's why the records are so good. The insecurity gave them soul. His confidence lived in his fingers. The rest? That stayed behind the smile. Then came Amos Moses, released in 1970. It was everything Reed did best. Swampy, groovy, half serious, half genius. A story song about a one-armed alligator poacher in Louisiana. Equal parts outlaw myth and guitar clinic. It hit number 8 on the pop charts. Sold 1 million copies. I wrote what I knew, Jerry said. Southern grit. The riff, funky bends, loose limb groove, defied country radio convention. But it worked. It crossed over to rock stations. You could hear Amos Moses on the same dial as Creedence. It wasn't Nashville country anymore. It was something else. Something new. Then came When You're Hot, You're Hot. That 1971 single wasn't just a hit. It was a sensation. A talking blues gambling tale with a grin baked into every syllable. It won Jerry Grammy. Number 9 on the pop charts. It sounded like a back porch jam, but hit like a crossover grenade. I just told a story, he said, like sitting on a porch. That was Jerry's genius. He didn't polish his stories. He delivered them with a wink and a guitar line, that made you tap your foot before the first chorus even landed. His 1971 album Coco, Joe Rode That Wave, and the title track, about a misunderstood river dweller, gave voice to the outsider. Reed liked outsiders. He was one, even when he was on top. He played to packed houses. 5,000 fans at the Grand Ole Opry. His Telecaster snarled. His boots stomped. His fingers moved like they had minds of their own. I gave in my heart, he said. And the songs just kept coming. By the end of the decade, Jerry had written over 300 songs. He scribbled lyrics in motel rooms. He came up with titles mid-joke. He wrote what he lived, what he saw, what he found funny, what he couldn't explain. My songs were my diary, he once said. In 1973, Lord, Mr. Ford hit the country charts, an anthem for everyone who'd ever been stuck on the side of the road. I wrote it driving a clunker, he laughed. The thing about Reed was, even when he was rich, he still felt like the guy fixing a flat on the shoulder. His guitar work on that song, funky, syncopated, biting, used C7 and A7 chords to inject soul into the steel. Country music hadn't heard anything like it. He wasn't just bending notes. He was bending genres. He played the Omni in Atlanta, his hometown. 10,000 fans cheering their wild man home. I made that guitar sing, he told Guitar Player, and the stories kept coming. She Got the Gold Mine, a hilarious, half-tragic anthem for every divorce in a double wide. It hit number 1 in 1982, but had been written years earlier. I heard a guy at a bar say it, Jerry explained, and I said, that's a song. That's what he did. He listened. He laughed. He wrote it down. Then he made it swing. By the late 70s, Jerry Reed wasn't just Nashville's guitar man anymore. He was on movie screens across America. In 1977, Smokey and the Bandit changed everything. He played Cleta Snow, a wisecracking truck driver with a loyal dog, a fast rig, and the best theme song in film history. Eastbound and Down, written by Reed for the movie, was pure adrenaline, open G tuning, freight train rhythm, Southern pride wrapped in twang and speed. The song hit number 2 on the country charts. I was a trucker at heart, Jerry said. I just wrote what the road felt like. He starred in all 3 Smokey films, each one expanding his fan base far beyond country fans. Suddenly, truckers, kids, bikers, and suburban dads all knew Jerry Reed. He didn't just act. He was that guy, that sly grin, that quick laugh, that hint of mischief just under the surface. I just played me, he told the New York Times, and America loved him for it. He wasn't some polished leading man. He was a friend you'd want riding shotgun on a long haul. And for Jerry, acting wasn't departure. It was just another way to tell a story. Same thing as a song, he said. You just deliver it different. In 1973, A Good Woman's Love had already proven he could blend wit and heart. But now, with Smokey and follow-up roles in Gator, Hot Stuff, and What Comes Around, Jerry became something else, a pop culture fixture. The guy who made you laugh, made you think, and then picked up guitar and blew the roof off the place. He didn't slow down. In fact, he sped up. Throughout the early 80s, he was a whirlwind, acting by day, recording by night. The Bird, a novelty hit from 1982, hit number 2 on the country charts. It featured him impersonating other artists mid-song, blending comedy and virtuosity like only Reed could. I had fun with that one, he said, grinning. Made a bird sing better than most humans. But behind the humor, there was always craft. Reed's playing remained razor-sharp. Open tunings, syncopated bends, finger-picking that sounded like 2 guitarists playing at once. He could turn a barroom sing-along into a masterclass in technique, and fans noticed. He played sold-out shows at Nashville's Fan Fair, 12,000 fans singing every word. He bantered between songs like it was a backyard barbecue. I talk like we're sitting on a porch, he said. That was his secret. He never made the audience feel beneath him. He made them feel with him. By 1983, Smokey and the Bandit 3 was out. The reviews were lukewarm, but Jerry kept smiling, kept moving. The guy didn't rest. In 1986, he starred in What Comes Around, a lesser-known film, but another notch on a career that refused to stay in one lane. And then, almost out of nowhere, came The Waterboy. It was 1998. Jerry was 61. He hadn't been in a big film for years. But when Adam Sandler called, Reed said yes. He played Coach Red Bull, a villainous, over-the-top football coach with the same charm he'd always had, just turned sideways. The role introduced him to a whole new generation. Sandler later said Jerry taught him how to fish between takes. "I just played a crazy coach," Jerry laughed. But once again he stole the scene. All the while, the music kept flowing. Reed never stopped touring, never stopped writing. He didn't care if the crowd was 10,000 or 200. "I'd rather play a bar than a stadium," he said. "You can see the faces." He was never about polish, never about perfection. He was about connection, feel, story, groove. But time, it catches everyone. By the early 1990s, the road started catching up with Jerry. Years of smoking, unfiltered, of course, led to emphysema. At first, he brushed it off, coughed into his elbow, cracked a joke, and picked up a guitar anyway. But the lungs don't lie. The shows got harder, the breath a little shorter. Still, he refused to quit. "I cough," he said, "but keep playing." He leaned more on family. His wife, Prissy, stayed his anchor. Their daughters, Sidina and Lottie, sometimes joined him on stage, harmonizing like it was Sunday morning on the porch. "My girls are my heart," he said. In 1998, Jerry joined a group called the Old Dogs, Waylon Jennings, Bobby Bare, Mel Tillis, and Jerry Reed. Legends, veterans, for friends who'd lived it all and had the stories to prove it. They recorded a record written entirely by Shel Silverstein. That's right, the Giving Tree guy. It wasn't a hit in the commercial sense, but it was real, honest, funny, worn in like a denim jacket that still fits after 30 years. One song, Young Man's Job, showcased Jerry's gravelly, wiser-than-ever voice. You could hear the road in his phrasing, the miles, the fights, the laughs, the heart. "I had a blast with those old boys," Jerry said. "We didn't care if it sold. We just want to play." Even as the spotlight dimmed, his influence only grew. Guitarists across genres started name-dropping him. Brad Paisley called him a picker's picker. Keith Urban said Reed's grooves help him understand rhythm in a whole new way. The funk, the bounce, the space between the notes. "I gave rock a southern kick," Jerry once said. He wasn't wrong. You could hear echoes of his playing in the Allman Brothers, in Lynyrd Skynyrd's Sweet Home Alabama, even in jam bands and blues rock acts. He left fingerprints on strings he never touched. And then there was the sampling. Primus covered Amos Moses in 1998, giving a slap bass, avant-garde makeover. Jay-Z sampled Hoochie Coochie Man in 2003. Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas featured Amos Moses on its in-game radio, introducing a whole new generation of gamers to the swampy swagger Jerry Reed. He never stopped working, never stopped creating. In the early 2000s, he still played small clubs, Nashville, Georgia, scattered roadhouses. The crowd might be smaller, but Jerry played just as hard, maybe harder. "I played till I couldn't breathe," he said near the end. And he meant it. In 2005, the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame inducted him, a long overdue nod to the man behind 323 songs, most of them solo written. He didn't need a co-writer to finish his thoughts. He already knew what he wanted to say. "I just told stories," he said that night. 3 years later, on September 1st, 2008, Jerry Reed passed away from complications of emphysema. He was 71. In Nashville, fans left guitars outside his home, silent tributes to a man who made strings sing. More than 3,000 people attended his memorial. He'd sold over 10 million records. His net worth, modest by superstar standards, was estimated at $3 million. But no one measured Jerry Reed in dollars. They measured him in influence, in smiles, in memories of a man who could make you laugh and cry in the same chorus, and then rip into a solo that sounded like fire on wire. Posthumous collections like the Essential Jerry Reed sold hundreds of thousands of copies. Critics reevaluated him. Younger artists covered him. His music lived on, not in the shadow of nostalgia, but in the pulse of anything bold, twangy, and unapologetically Southern. His daughter, Saidina, accepted his induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2017. "Daddy, be proud," she said. She was right. Jerry Reed never chased the spotlight. He earned it. For all the flash, the loud shirts, the jokes, the big grins, he was at his core a craftsman, a guy who came up poor, clawed his way into studios, carved his own sound, and left a groove in American music that still echoes today. And what a sound it was. His guitar playing didn't just impress, it confounded. Even today, seasoned pickers still slowed down his solos to try to figure them out. It wasn't just speed, it was articulation, bounce, feel, the way he filled rhythm with melody and melody with rhythm. He could play bass lines with his thumb while running lead on the top strings. And all of it swung because Jerry grooved. He didn't play country guitar, Brad Paisley once said. He played Jerry guitar. He didn't just change the sound of Nashville. He gave it hips, funk, swagger, a wink, and a crooked grin. He made serious musicians laugh. He made jokesters take notes. But beyond the music, Jerry was a mirror to the working-class South. His lyrics weren't always profound, but they were always true. He wrote about gator hunters, broken-down cars, porch talk, bar fights, divorce settlements, shady preachers, crooked gamblers, and the wide, weird, wonderful country in between. He wrote with humor, but never condescension. He laughed with you, not at you, and She Got the Gold Mine. He turned a painful subject into a nationwide sing-along. In Coco Joe, he reminded us that the ones on the fringe often have the biggest hearts. And when you're hot, you're hot. He showed us that even when you're on top, trouble's always around the corner. He made you feel seen, especially if you'd ever felt overlooked. Jerry wasn't a saint. He was human. He had doubts. He wrestled with insecurity. He covered it with laughter, with showmanship, with the kind of energy you can't fake. But it was real, and it stayed real all the way to the end. In the final years, when most legends fade quietly, Jerry kept creating. He mentored younger artists. He jammed with old friends. He went fishing with Adam Sandler. He played dive bars in towns that couldn't pronounce Nashville because that's where his people were. And when emphysema took his voice, he played until he couldn't breathe. That's not just work ethic. That's love. Love for music. Love for craft. Love for connection he had with every stranger in every seat. His legacy isn't a statue or a museum wing. It's in the way players bend strings today. It's in the humor that lives in country lyrics. It's in the funky backbone of Southern rock. It's an eastbound and down roaring from a pickup's radio on some back road on a summer night. It's in the feeling that somewhere in the distance, Jerry's still picking, still Logan, still telling stories that make you say, that's exactly how it feels. Thanks for hanging out with the Echo Lab. Whether you're listening on your favorite podcast app or watching on YouTube, we appreciate you being here. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow, subscribe, and drop a review or comment to let us know what you think. Got a band, topic, or a deep cut you want featured? Shoot us a message. Until next time, this is the Echo Lab, where we dive into the story behind the sound.